I don't think I've ever said that out loud in a video before. That's wild. That's a weird name. What is going on? I should probably tell you what this is about, right? Hello everybody, it's Sarah. Welcome back. Today I'm coming at you with a book haul. If you've been following me here for a while, you know that book hauls are kind of rare on my channel. I don't do them very often, and that's because I don't really buy a lot of books very often, but I've accumulated a decent pile. Some of these books I've already read, but I still really wanted to mention them in this haul. I also have some books that I have never talked about on my channel that pretty much nobody knows that I bought them, which I find myself very mysterious, and honestly I'm really enjoying that. And also, you know, just some books that I had read but I didn't have a copy of them, all of that. So yeah, let's just dive in because this intro is already pretty long. I guess I will just start with the top of the pile that I had here on my bed, and the first two books of that pile are Loveless and Nick and Charlie by Alice Oseman. If you've watched some of my latest videos, you probably already know that I have read both of those and really enjoyed both of them. So in Loveless we follow Georgia, who has just started university, and in this one we really follow her as she is coming to terms with the fact that she is aromantic and asexual, so she is aro-ace, and I really loved the representation in this book. I myself am on the ace spectrum, so you know, it was just really nice to read about that in a book. I don't think I've ever said that out loud in a video before. That's wild. So yeah, I just really loved this book. It made me cry, it made me laugh, it was so relatable, and it just means a lot to me. Since reading this book for the first time, I have read a couple of reviews that talked about certain aspects that some readers found problematic, and while I did not necessarily agree with everything that was said, I do agree that certain side characters were a little bit stereotypical. I do want to point that out because I think it's very important. Obviously, representation can be a tricky matter because something that is very true to your own experience cannot be true for everybody else. And while it is pretty logical and obvious because not everybody has the same experiences, I think it's just very important to be mindful about the representation that you put out there in the media. So I just wanted to mention this about this book. While it is very important to me, I absolutely recognize the fact that it is not at all perfect and that some people have some very serious issues regarding this novel. So yeah, I just wanted to put it out there. And then we have Nick and Charlie, which is this novella in which we follow the main characters from the graphic novels Heartstopper. And in this cute, very short novella, we follow Nick and Charlie, as the title suggests. Basically, Nick is soon leaving for university, and so him and Charlie are starting to prepare for this new reality with their relationship and all of that. And like I've said, it is pretty cute, but it's also fairly dark, and I was not really expecting that. It's very sad. So yeah, it made me live through a lot of different emotions. Yeah, overall, because it's Nick and Charlie, obviously it's also super sweet and funny and amazing, and it is also illustrated, which I really liked. Let me find a picture. Oh, there we are. Like, look at them, aren't they so cute? Then the next book is one of those mysterious books that nobody knows that I bought, and that book is Far from the Madding Crowd by Thomas Hardy, which is a classic that I haven't read yet. I picked up this book at the bookstore the other day because I have seen the movie adaptation that came out in, like, was it 2012? I don't remember. But yeah, I watched the movie adaptation and I really loved it. So I decided that I wanted to read the original book. I've also heard some pretty good things about Thomas Hardy's writing. Apparently, he is one of the few male classics authors who can actually write female characters. So I'm really excited to read this book. I just think the story is super interesting. I should probably tell you what this is about, right? Okay, so this synopsis doesn't say too much besides the fact that Virginia Woolf loves this book, which I think is a good sign. But basically it says, far from the madding crowd, Hardy's passionate tale of the beautiful, headstrong farmer Bathsheba Hebridean and her three suitors firmly established the 34-year-old writer as a popular novelist. So yeah, it's about this girl, Bathsheba, that's a weird name, and her 3 lovers. But yeah, this sounds very interesting. I really enjoyed the movie. It was so great, and I'm definitely more open to classics now that I've read all of Jane Austen's novels and really enjoyed them, so that's why I picked up this one. Then the next book is very different, and that book is The Female of the Species by Mindy McGinnis. This is a book that I actually read last year, but I didn't own a copy of it, so I decided to finally buy one because this is one of my favorite YA contemporaries, and I feel that that's fairly obvious. I talk about this book quite a lot on my channel, I think. So yeah, this is kind of like this dark thriller set in a very small town in which we follow our main character, Alex, who is out for revenge. She wants to find a person who kidnapped, raped, and killed her sister. So she is just trying to find them and kill them, basically. And in her quest for revenge, she actually gets tangled up into the lives of 2 other different characters. One of them is Jack, the star athlete of the basketball team, I think? I don't remember which sport, but he's the star athlete of that town. And also PK, who is the preacher's kid. And so basically these 3 characters become friends and their lives are forever changed. And I really love this book. It is very violent. I do have to say there are a lot of trigger warnings that apply to this novel. The major ones being obviously rape and violence against women, but there is also some violence against animals and just a ton of very dark stuff. I'll try to find all of the trigger warnings and put them in the description box. I don't remember all of them because, like I've said, I've read this book last year, so I just don't remember all of the content, but it is definitely pretty hardcore. It is one of those books that left me completely speechless when I finished it because of how intense it was, so I definitely wanted to have my own copy because I do think that I'm gonna want to reread this one in the future. It's just so good, and it talks about feminism and anger in such a raw and beautiful way, so I would definitely recommend this one. But yeah, just check out the trigger warnings beforehand because it's definitely a very intense book. Then the next book that I got is one that really surprised me when I read it last year, and I feel like I don't talk about this book enough on my channel, and that book is The Scorpio Races by Maggie Stiefvater. I picked up this one at the library at some point last year. I think it was like in October or something, and I decided on a whim to try to read it because I had heard some good things about it and I was just very curious, and I ended up actually listening to the audiobook. But I think that the thing that really made me want to read this book is the first sentence. It says, "It's the first day of November, and so today someone will die." And I was just like, what is going on? I need to know what happens. And so in this one, basically we follow these 2 characters who live on an island on which every year there is a competition called the Scorpio Races. And basically during the Scorpio Races, the people that compete against each other ride those very strange water-formed horses. They're called the Kapellishka, which I believe is an Irish word. I'm not 100% sure, but I do believe they're from Irish mythology, and they're obviously wild and dangerous and also carnivorous, fun fact. So riding them is very difficult, and it is definitely a challenge. And so we follow our 2 main characters. I think his name is Sean and Puck. Yeah, Sean is the son of a very famous Kapellishka rider who died during his last race, and Puck is a very normal girl who just wants to win the race because she needs money to provide for her family. And so they compete against each other and they learn to know each other and they become friends, and this book is just so good. When I picked up this book, I thought that I was going to enjoy it like okay, but I ended up really loving it because the atmosphere is absolutely incredible. It has this very gloomy small town atmosphere that I just really loved, and the characters are also super lovable, and just the competition makes it all super high stakes and very exciting. There's also a lot of weird folklore and mythology elements to it that I also really enjoyed. And yeah, overall it captured my attention from beginning to end, and I just loved it so much. And if you want to pick it up, this time of the year is actually, I think, the perfect time to do so because it's just so dark and atmospheric and kind of spooky. So yeah, I just love this book so much. It's so great, and honestly, I don't know why I don't talk about it more, because it definitely deserves more hype. So yeah, I'm very, very happy to have my own copy now, and I'm definitely going to be rereading this very, very soon. Then the next book is another classic that I haven't read. Can you believe this? This is absolutely wild. And I also picked up this one because I really, really enjoyed the adaptation. This happens very, very often with me in classics. But yeah, this book is North and South by Elizabeth Gaskell. So in this one we follow our main character Margaret, who lives into the countryside with her family, but then they are kind of forced to move to this very industrial town in the north of England, and there she meets the owner of a mill, who is called, what's his name? John Thornton. And basically they start to have this very rocky relationship, because at first she absolutely hates him, but then they learn to know each other more, and you know, things start to happen. I think you can definitely see a recurrent theme with me and the classics that I love to read, which is that I really, really love to read about women's experiences in different time periods and all of the expectations that were put on them and all of that. It definitely sounds much darker than Jane Austen, but I'm still very, very interested, and I know that this author also has a couple of other novels, so if I end up really enjoying this one, then I might pick the other ones up. Then the next two books are actually French books. They are both by Quebecer authors, and I actually bought them on the 12th of August, because here in Quebec we have this kind of like event called le 12 août j'achète un livre québécois, which basically means on August 12th I buy a Quebecer book. And so yeah, I decided to participate this year. I participate every year because I just think that it's a good way to celebrate our literature. So yeah, I picked up two books this year. The first one is Kuei, je te salue, conversation sur le racisme by Denis Ellis Béchard and Natasha Canapé-Fontaine. I've already talked about this one in my September TBR. I really want to read this one this month, and basically this book is a compilation of letters that these two authors exchanged talking about racism in Quebec, and I think that it sounds super interesting. It's also probably going to teach me a lot. I've already read some excerpts in some of my classes, and I'm now really, really excited to read it all. And then the second book that I bought is Pour qui je me prends by Hilary Saint-Martin, who is actually my master's director, and this is her latest novel. And in this one she actually talks about how she decided to change her name, leave Ontario, and come and live in Quebec and learn French, because she didn't feel like she belonged in the English language and in Ontario. And I think it sounds absolutely fascinating, and it talks about languages obviously and also identity, and I think it's just going to be so good. Obviously I really, really love this woman. She is my master's director. I admire her a lot, so to be able to read one of her books is going to be an amazing experience. Then the next book is another one of those that I've already read, and that book is The City of Brass by S.A. Chakraborty. I read this one back in, was it July? Yeah, I think it was July with Izzy from Izzy's Busy Reading. We buddy read this one together. This is a historical fantasy set in Carroll, in which we follow Nari, our main character, who accidentally wakes up a war genie, and then the story kind of takes off from there. I ended up enjoying this book, but not as much as I wanted, unfortunately. I think that the characters are definitely the strength of this novel. I also think that the politics, however, are very, very confusing, and I still don't really know if it's the book's fault or if I'm just not smart enough for this book or just not the right kind of reader for that kind of story. But yeah, I loved the world building and all of the magic system in this. It is so beautiful, so mysterious, and definitely very whimsical. But yeah, sadly I don't think that this series is for me, which is really a shame because it's very, very popular on BookTube, and I really, really hoped to enjoy it way, way more than I did. But you know, it happens. Then the next book that I want to haul is All the Devils Are Here by Louise Penny. I've talked about this book so many times lately on my channel because I've just been so excited for it, and obviously I really loved it because I love everything that Louise Penny does. And basically this is, I think, book number 16 in the aaannnnddd series, which is a mystery series set mainly in Quebec. But in this one we actually follow the inspector as he goes to Paris with his family, and then something tragic happens because aaannndd cannot have a break wherever he goes. murder follows. So yeah, I really enjoyed this one, and once again it is just such a beautiful book. Like, just look at this book, it's just so pretty. It has these kind of like Van Gogh vibes, but also one of the things that I really love about Louise Penny books are all of those end pages. They are just so stunning. Like 4 of her latest books I think have those, and they're just absolutely amazing. Obviously this is Paris and it's so pretty. So yeah, I really enjoyed this one. I'm so happy to have it in my hands and that I could finally read it, and I'm definitely going to gush about it more in my September wrap-up. And then finally, the last book that I got is The House in the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune. This is the book pick for the Tea Leaves Book Club for the month of September, and also the book that we are going to read as a group for our readathon, the Tea Leaves Readathon. Reminder that the Tea Leaves Readathon is taking place from September 27th to October 4th. So if you want to join us, there is still plenty of time to create your TBR. I will leave the announcement video up here if you want to go and check it out. But from what I've heard, this is a very charming fantasy book in which we follow our main character, who is kind of like this social worker for magical children, and at the beginning of the novel he is sent on this mission to go and investigate into this house, which I assume is in the middle of a sea, in which live what could potentially be very dangerous magical children. And so he is sent over there and he starts to investigate and also slowly fall in love with all of the children and their caretaker. I have read so many amazing things about this book said by so many different people in the community, so I am so excited to read it. It sounds just whimsical and sweet and just a kind of book that will really make me feel all warm and fuzzy inside, so I'm definitely very excited to read this one. Okay, so there you'll have it. These are all of the books that I've bought recently. Like I've said many times in this video, I'm very excited to read them all and then share all of my opinions with all of you. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please don't forget to subscribe, and also let me know in the comments down below what books you bought recently, because I would really love to know. And I will see you in my next one. Bye!